Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the incredible journey of one of football's all-time legends, David Beckham. From his early days on the pitch to becoming a global icon, we'll explore the highs, the challenges, and the unforgettable moments that shaped his amazing career. So, if you're a fan of football history and want to know the story behind the man who changed the game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. I never thought I'd be the one posting here, especially not under this kind of username. Yeah, it's me. And no, this isn't about football, sponsorships, or my hair. It's about my wife, and the kind of betrayal that makes you question if you ever really knew someone at all. I've been married to Victoria for what feels like forever. We were a team, or at least that's what I told myself every time we got through another scandal, another headline, another suspicious look across the dinner table. The world thought we were perfect, power couple, iconic duo, whatever term you want to slap on a glossy magazine cover. But truth? Things hadn't felt perfect in years. At first, it was little things. Cold silences between conversations. Her phone always face down. She'd get dressed up for girls' nights and leave me with the kids and a vague, "Don't wait up." Sometimes she came home smelling like cigarettes, and neither of us smoke. One night I asked about it, and she brushed it off with a tight smile. It was the Uber driver. Right. Like I've never smelled secondhand smoke before. There was this weird distance growing between us. It wasn't obvious at first. She still did the public PDA, still sent me cute texts if I was filming or traveling, but there was something missing. Something real. Something honest. But the thing is, when you're with someone that long, you start convincing yourself that all relationships go through phases. That maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was the one imagining it. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. It started with a charger. Yeah. Of all things, it was her damn iPhone charger that triggered the whole thing. I was looking for mine, couldn't find it, and hers was plugged into the kitchen socket. Her phone was right next to it. Screen lit up. A message from someone saved as Clarissa, Pilates. Now, I know all of Victoria's Pilates instructors. Mostly because she never shuts up about how none of them can match her discipline, and Clarissa wasn't one of them. Curiosity kicked in. No password. She must have just unlocked it, then walked off to get her purse or whatever. It wasn't a long message. Just a quick. "He's in Dubai next week. Sleepover?" I just stared at the screen. My heart didn't even start racing at first. It just stopped. Froze. Like my body knew before my brain did. I didn't even know who he was yet, but I knew that message wasn't about yoga mats or downward dogs. I scrolled up. There were weeks of messages. Weeks. Late-night meetups. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. Code names, hotel names, reservations, photos, and voice notes. One said, "You should have seen how he looked at me tonight while Dave was talking about some kid's football game. Like, get a grip. Your husband's literally in the room." I swear I felt like throwing up right there on the marble floor. It wasn't just that she was cheating. It was how comfortable she was with it. How smug. Like I was some joke in the background of her real life. And the worst part? I recognized the voice note background noise. That night, I was talking about our son's game. We were at dinner with friends. She had literally been texting her affair partner under the damn table. I put the phone down, face down, just like she always left it. My hands were shaking. My jaw hurt from clenching it. I told myself, you need proof. You can't just explode. Not yet. I took a photo of the messages. Then I sat down and waited for her to walk back and like nothing was wrong. She came back into the kitchen holding her purse, all casual, sipping a green juice like her world was still spinning on schedule. I just said, "Who's Clarissa?" She didn't flinch. Didn't pause. "Pilates class." "Why?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No, she's not." That did it. Her shoulders twitched, just slightly, enough for me to see it. The tiny crack in the armor. But she didn't drop the act. "David," she said with this exhausted little sigh, like I was the one being difficult. "Are you seriously going through my phone now? Are we doing this?" Gaslight mode. Activated. I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, "You've been sleeping with someone." I saw the messages. I heard the voice notes. "Don't lie to me again." She stood there, frozen. Then, out of nowhere, a laugh. She laughed. Full on. Like she was watching a sitcom. "You're being dramatic," she said. "It's not what you think." "Not what I think." "You literally joked about how stupid I looked while you were texting him at dinner." And finally, her face changed. All the color drained out of it. She sat down, silent for a full minute. Then the floodgates opened, but not with truth. Instead, she started crying. I've been unhappy for years. You don't even see me anymore. I feel like a museum piece in your life. I was so stunned by that I forgot to respond for a beat. Then I said, so your solution was to screw around behind my back? To laugh about me with some random guy? She didn't answer. She just kept crying, talking about how lonely she felt, how we grew apart, how it just happened. According to her, they'd met through mutual friends at some charity event. He was someone I knew. Not well, but enough that his name showing up in that thread made my stomach flip. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, wiping tears like it was a soap opera audition. It was a mistake. But he listens. He makes me feel alive. That word, alive. Like I was some walking ghost in her life, just existing so she could have the press photos and the brand deals and the security. I got up. I didn't yell, didn't scream. I just walked into the hallway and sat on the stairs. I'd never felt more humiliated in my life. You ever get hit so hard emotionally that your body reacts physically? That was me. Sitting on the stairs like a damn statue while my heart pounded in my ears, face numb, hands trembling, stomach doing Olympic-level gymnastics. I didn't even know what to feel first. Anger? Embarrassment? Grief? It was like all of it rolled into one huge wave, and I just let it crash over me. I wasn't even crying. Just sitting there, blank, trying to process the fact that the woman I thought had my back, the woman I've built a life and family with, had been mocking me behind my back and living a whole other life in the shadows. And here's what stung the most. I knew her. At least, I thought I did. I knew her moods, her little lies, like when she said she hated reality TV but secretly watched it when I was out, her tell, when she was bluffing in an argument. I thought I was close to her. Turns out, I was just close to a version of her she let me see. It made me question everything. Every trip. Every anniversary. Every time she leaned her head on my shoulder when we were watching a movie. Was that real? Or was she already planning her next lie? And let me tell you, the betrayal wasn't just about sex. It was about intimacy, the trust, the shared inside jokes, the bond we'd built over 2 decades. She threw it away for some guy who called her Vicky Vixen in his texts. I'm not kidding. That was her nickname in the chat. I felt rage bubble up again, but it was buried under this heavy blanket of sadness. Like I was mourning someone who was still alive. She was right there in the house, same person, same perfume, same voice, and yet, it felt like she'd already died and left me with a stranger. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the guest room staring at the ceiling, listening to the occasional floorboard creak as she walked around upstairs. And all I could think was, how long has this been going on? And how far does the rot go? The next morning, she acted like she'd just survived a thunderstorm. Puffy eyes, no makeup, walking around in one of my old hoodies like some tragic victim of circumstance. We should talk, she said softly, as if I had hurt her. I didn't respond. Just sat there with my coffee, staring at her like she was some puzzle I'd been trying to solve for 20 years, and I just realized the pieces were from a different damn box. She started spinning her version of events again. This time, it was a 6-month affair. It started with emotional stuff, she said. We didn't sleep together until recently. But that directly contradicted the text I saw from 5 months ago, thanking him for last night and saying her thighs were sore. So I pushed her on that. And then, her whole story started shifting like sand under a wave. Okay, maybe it was physical a little earlier than that. It was only a few times. He meant nothing to me. It was only when you were traveling. Each time I called her out on something, she adjusted the lie. She recalibrated. I realized in real time that I wasn't talking to a regretful wife. I was talking to someone who was trying to do damage control, someone who wasn't sorry she cheated, just sorry she got caught. She even had the audacity to say, "You've been married to your career for years, David. Don't act like I'm the only one who checked out." That one hit like a punch to the chest. Because yes, I worked. I traveled. I took opportunities to secure our family's future. But I was always faithful, always came home, always showed up when it mattered. Then she threw another curveball. "He wanted me to leave you." That got my attention. "And what did you say?" She hesitated just long enough to make my blood boil. I said no. I said I love my family. Not I love you. I love my family. I realized then she wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was trying to preserve her image, her lifestyle. The Instagram perfect illusion. And suddenly, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. So, remember how I mentioned the guy was someone I knew? Yeah, New is putting it lightly. Turns out it was Tommy, my former business partner, friend of 10 plus years, guy who came to our wedding, toasted us like he meant it, and called me brother every damn time we met. We'd fallen out a couple of years back over a stupid disagreement about branding on a joint project. No yelling, no dramatic blowout, just one of those slow fizzle-outs. I figured we both moved on. No hard feelings. Apparently he moved on to my wife. The second I saw his name in those messages, everything clicked. The few texts from Victoria back when she said she was meeting an old friend from Soho House? That was him. The yoga retreat she randomly insisted on taking last year even though she hates the countryside? He was there. Hell, I even remembered him complimenting her dress at a charity event and her brushing it off too quickly. At first, I was stunned. Then I laughed. Loud. Like a proper psycho laugh that scared even me. Because it wasn't just betrayal, it was strategic. These two orchestrated a whole secondary relationship while smiling in my face. They planned their lies like a PR team. She even saved his number under Clarissa. And that's when I realized this wasn't her first rodeo. You don't get that slick with lies on your first try. But here's the cherry on top. I found out from a mutual friend that Tommy had just broken up with someone, a woman I met at our house during a barbecue 3 months ago. So not only was he cheating with my wife, he was also cheating on his girlfriend. These people belong together. Two snakes in matching Gucci. I didn't text him. Not yet. I was still building my timeline. But in my head, I started prepping for war. And the worst part? She still slept in our bed that night. Just curled up like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't torched 20 years of trust and set it on fire with her lies. At this point, I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Every memory I had with her started to rot at the edges. Her smiles felt rehearsed in my head. The "I love you"s echoed like lines from a play. I started replaying the last 5 years of our life like a detective rewatching surveillance footage. But now, everything had a question mark attached. And then came the avalanche. I decided to check our shared email account. The one she forgot was still synced to my tablet. There it was. A folder named Work Stuff buried under promotions and receipts. Guess what was in it? A travel itinerary for a conference in Madrid, except the hotel only had 2 guests registered. Gift receipts for lingerie she told me didn't fit right when I bought it, because apparently it fit him just fine. Screenshots of Instagram messages between her and other men, not just Tommy. And the worst, an unsent email to a divorce lawyer dated 5 months ago. Drafted. Never sent. Like she was testing the waters. I felt sick. She hadn't just cheated. She had options lined up. She had drafts, backdoors, escape plans. When I confronted her about the email, she barely blinked. I never sent it, she said. Doesn't that mean something? Yeah, it means you were thinking about it and didn't have the guts. It means I was your backup plan in case things didn't pan out with your side piece. I asked her if there were others. Her silence said enough. But after a pause, she whispered, just 2, before Tommy. Just 2. Like she was talking about ex-boyfriends in college. Like it didn't matter. Like it wasn't the collapse of everything I thought was sacred. I walked out of the room. Stood outside in the garden barefoot at midnight, staring at the damn lemon tree she loved. The one we planted together when we bought the house. It suddenly looked fake. Plastic. Like everything else. That's when I knew this wasn't just one mistake. This was a lifestyle of dishonesty, and I had no idea how long I'd been married to a version of Victoria that never truly existed. I gave it 2 days. Not out of mercy, but strategy. I wanted my anger to simmer just enough to keep my head clear. I wasn't going to scream. I wanted him to feel what he did. Calm is scarier than rage, and I was ice cold by the time I pulled up to his office. Yeah, Tommy still ran that stupid boutique branding firm. Still had that fake polished charm and his little espresso machine in the corner, like he was God's gift to creative strategy. I walked in unannounced. The receptionist froze when she saw me. I smiled and said, "He's expecting me." He wasn't, but she didn't question it. He looked up from his laptop when I walked in. Smiled. That smile. I'll never forget how fast it drained off his face. "David, hey, man. Don't." I shut the door behind me. He stood, stammering. "Look, I didn't mean for it to get that far." I cut him off. "Don't insult me with that cliché. You meant it. You pursued her. You built a second life with her while pretending we were still friends." His hands went up, palms out. "I swear, I didn't plan it. We were drunk one night, and then Stop." My voice was steady. "Just tell me the truth. How long?" How deep? He sank back into his chair. It was almost 2 years, off and on. But I swear to you, I was going to end it. Oh, you were going to do me a favor? While still screwing my wife in hotel rooms I probably paid for. He looked down. Couldn't even face me. I walked around his desk, leaned in. You ever come near my family again, I will destroy you. Not with fists. With facts. I know things about your company, creative accounting, shell invoices, shady licensing deals. All stuff you thought I forgot. His eyes snapped up. Panic. Yeah, I said. You didn't just screw me personally. You left your neck out professionally, too. Think carefully about your next move. I turned to walk out. But before I left, I said one last thing over my shoulder. She wasn't just cheating on me, Tommy. She was cheating on you, too. Because I had receipts from other men. And that smug bastard didn't even know he was just one branch on a very diseased tree. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out, got in my car, and drove away feeling oddly lighter. Not healed, but one step closer to done. You want to know what really cuts deep? It's not the betrayal, the lies, or even the humiliation. It's the look in your kids' eyes when they know something's wrong, but they don't know what. Not yet. Our youngest, Harper, only 13, came to me in the kitchen one morning while her mom was asleep, upstairs, hungover from crying or guilt or both, who knows anymore. Dad, are you and Mom mad at each other? I froze. You never prepare for that moment. I just bent down, looked her in the eye, and said, We're working through something, sweetheart. But we love you. That won't change. She nodded slowly, then whispered, She's been weird lately. I didn't press. I didn't want her carrying that weight. But later, Brooklyn messaged me from New York. He'd noticed, too. Said Mom's tone had changed, more impatient, snappy. Said she canceled a trip to visit him last minute with a lame excuse and barely texted back after. And Romeo? He'd seen her on FaceTime a few months ago with someone in the background, a man's voice she claimed was a producer. They were starting to connect the dots. I felt sick. Not just because she cheated, but because her choices had begun bleeding into their lives. Her selfishness wasn't contained to our marriage anymore. It was leaking, poisoning everything. I confronted her about it, gently at first. They're noticing. This is affecting them. She waved it off. They're older. They'll understand. That sentence will haunt me. Like our family was a storyline she could write off, like damage was a given. I realized she had built herself a narrative in her head where she was the victim, the misunderstood wife with the cold husband, and the fiery affair that reminded her she was still alive. No, she was just a liar with no brakes and no plan, and now our kids were casualties. That was the moment I stopped hoping for a fix. This wasn't salvageable. This wasn't a rough patch. It was a slow-motion car crash I was finally climbing out of. When you're famous, divorce lawyers get creative. I walked into the office of a guy who came highly recommended, discreet, sharp, no nonsense. He barely shook my hand before sliding a thick folder across the desk. I've reviewed everything you sent. This isn't going to be cheap. Or fast. Great start. He outlined the obvious first. Our assets were massive and intertwined: property, businesses, international holdings. Then he hit me with the real gut punch. She's already lawyered up. Weeks ago. Probably around the time she drafted that unsent email. I clenched my jaw. So even back then, while she was smiling at me across dinner tables and posting #FamilyGoals on Instagram, she was prepping for a financial war. Her side was pushing for joint custody of Harper, partial alimony, despite her very generous personal accounts, and wanted to keep the villa in the south of France. The lawyer looked at me carefully and said, She's aiming to look like the stable parent and you as the distracted one. I'd start acting squeaky clean immediately. I blinked. I am clean. He nodded. Doesn't matter. It's about perception. That's when the second punch came. She started quietly shifting narratives online. You'll see it soon. Subtle digs, vague posts, shared articles about narcissistic partners or feeling invisible in your own home. Classic pre-divorce image strategy. Especially when there's cheating involved and she knows it was her, but she'll try to spin it like it was you. I sat there, stunned. Not because I was surprised, but because I realized how calculated it all had been. This woman, who once couldn't plan a weekend getaway without forgetting her passport, was strategizing a public divorce campaign behind my back. It wasn't just betrayal of love. It was betrayal of legacy, of trust, of reputation. I thanked the lawyer, got in my car, and stared at the steering wheel for 10 minutes before driving off. Everything was about to be dragged through the mud, and the woman I once trusted more than anyone was handing out shovels. After the lawyer meeting, I thought I'd heard it all. But Victoria saved her best for the next conversation, or rather, confrontation. I asked her point blank to sit down and talk. I was calm but firm. I wanted to hear her version, to see if there was even a scrap of honesty left. She looked at me with those cold eyes, and for a second I thought maybe she'd crack. But then, out came the most ridiculous, brazen lie I've ever heard in my life. "David, you're imagining things. Tommy is just a business friend. You're twisting everything." Twisting? After I had screenshots, hotel receipts, messages? I laughed so hard it felt like bile rising. "You're telling me that you accidentally matched travel dates, sent flirty texts, and kept a secret phone just for fun?" She bit her lip, then smiled, like she'd pulled a magic trick. "Maybe it's because you've changed. Maybe you're the one who's been distant." I was lonely. I needed someone who listened. That was the final straw. I realized then she'd rehearsed these excuses in the mirror for weeks. Every time I caught her, she doubled down. Every confrontation, she twisted the knife further, painting herself as the victim in this story. I left the room shaking not from anger, but exhaustion. I felt like I'd been running a marathon wearing concrete boots. I wasn't just grieving the betrayal, I was grieving the woman I thought she was, the life we built on trust that was now a house of cards. The silence was the worst part. After the confrontations, the lies, and the fighting, our home felt empty. Like a museum exhibit where the ghosts linger but no one lives there anymore. Victoria moved into the guest room. She said she needed space to think. Meanwhile, every morning I'd walk through the house. The kitchen where she used to make her terrible scrambled eggs, the living room where we argued over dumb things, the bedroom that no longer felt like ours. The walls held memories that stabbed sharper than any argument. The kids tried to keep things normal. Harper still asked for breakfast like nothing was wrong. Brooklyn called every few days, full of his usual sarcastic humor. Romeo tried to joke about the dog eating his homework. But underneath, I saw it all, their quiet sadness, the questions they didn't want to ask. I tried to focus on work, but my mind was a war zone. Every email, every phone call, every photo she sent out on social media felt like a betrayal all over again. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a prison of doubt and regret. And through it all, Victoria's voice was quieter than ever, but every word she said, every text she sent, was a reminder of how far we'd fallen. I've always valued my privacy. But after weeks of whisper campaigns, vague social media posts, and watching her play the victim publicly, I knew I had to take control of the narrative. One evening, I posted a long message on Instagram, not to rant or point fingers, but to lay everything out honestly, calmly, and clearly. I wrote about trust broken, about the pain of betrayal, and about my commitment to my kids no matter what. The response? Mixed. Some people were supportive, others were shocked. Some accused me of airing dirty laundry. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was reclaiming my story. Victoria didn't respond directly, but the tone of her post shifted, more guarded, less accusatory. I knew the game had changed. Putting it all out there wasn't easy. Vulnerability never is. But it was necessary. Because healing can't start in the shadows. The days after going public were surreal. Suddenly, the weight on my chest felt a little lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because I wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Therapy became a part of my routine. For me, for the kids, and eventually, for Victoria too, if she ever wanted to face the truth. I started focusing on things that made me feel alive again. Early morning runs, reconnecting with old friends, and rediscovering passions I'd buried under years of perfect husband expectations. The kids were my anchor. Harper's smiles started to come more often. Brooklyn sent me photos from college, jokes in the captions. Romeo found new confidence in his music. Was it the end of the marriage? Almost certainly. But it was the beginning of something real, a chance to rebuild from the ashes. I learned that sometimes, the hardest thing isn't ending a relationship. It's accepting that some people aren't who you thought they were, and that your own happiness depends on letting go. Looking back, I never imagined I'd be the guy posting my messy, personal life on a subreddit. But here we are. What I learned. Betrayal is like a punch to the gut, unexpected, painful, and disorienting. But it's also a wake-up call. It forces you to see things clearly. Who you are, who you want to be, and what you'll never accept again. I realized that no matter how much someone lies, cheats, or manipulates, The real power lies in how you respond. You can let it break you, or you can let it make you stronger. Victoria's lies hurt me deeply, but they also taught me something invaluable. Self-respect isn't negotiable. Neither is honesty. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, hold on to yourself. Don't let someone else's betrayal define your worth. You deserve truth. You deserve peace. And you deserve a fresh start. Thanks for letting me share. David.